ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಬಿಸಿಲು ಹೊಡಿತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
What?
Hello, check, check. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Check, check. Audio. Check, check. ಇದು ಆನ್ ಇದು ನೋಡಿ
Check,
ಆನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
check, 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 check.
ಚೆಕ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಆಡಿಯೋ
I
Audio.
request everyone to come inside the indoor stadium as we are going to start the panel session.
ಚೆಕ್ 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 ಹಲೋ 1, 2, 3 ಆಡಿಯೋ ಚೆಕ್ ಚೆಕ್.
Good morning, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome you all for the panel session on AI in contemporary media, where we have gathered with some of the most distinguished scholars in the field of media and communication. I am Joshua, a first-year student pursuing BWalk in media and entertainment, and I am delighted to introduce today's panelist. Moving on further, first and foremost, I would like to welcome Professor Sandeep R. Muppidi. Professor Muppidi is a professor of communication in the University of Hartford with expertise in international communication, media studies, and social change. He has held a prominent position, including Associate Provost at Eastern Connecticut State University and Associate Professor at Nanyang Technological University. His research spans global media, communication for development, and digital transformation. Professor Muppidi has authored numerous publications and has been recognized for his contribution in media education, including Oscar and Soshna Treisenberg Award for Distinguished Services. We are honored to have you amongst us, sir. Please take your seat on the dais, sir. And Professor Muppidi will be moderating the panel session on contemporary media in AI. Moving on, Professor Usha Raman is a distinguished academic in the Department of Communication at the University of Hyderabad with expertise in journalism pedagogy, health communication, feminist media studies, and digital cultures. She has contributed significantly to media and communication research. She has been visiting fellow at institutions such as MIT, the University of Sydney, the University of Bremen. Professor Raman also serves as the Vice President of the International Association of Media and Communication Research and co-founded FemLab, an initiative of the Future Women's Work. We extend a warm welcome to you, Professor Usha Raman. Professor Ujjwal K. Chowdhury is currently the Director General of the Management School of Events, Entertainment and Design in the Bhavans Campus College of Andheri, and is also the Vice President of the Global Media Education Council. Until December 2024, he served as the Vice President of the Global Media International Relation and Media Design Education at Washington University. He was previously the Pro Vice Chancellor of Admas University in Kolkata and held a leadership position at Symbiosis, Amity, Pearl Academy, and Whistling Woods International. Additionally, he has been the Dean of Amsterdam Film School and Strategic Advisor at Daffodil International University in Bangladesh. We welcome you, Professor Ujjwal K. Chowdhury. Dr. Arpan Yagnik is an Associate Professor of Advertising, Media, and Communication at Penn State, Barron. His research focuses on creating advertising, social media marketing, and health communication, particularly in menstrual health advocacy. He has published extensively in international journals and founded it Keeping It Flowing campaign to promote menstrual hygiene awareness. Dr. Yagnik is actively involved in the academic and professional organization, contributing to the fields of advertising strategy and communication research. A warm welcome to you, dear sir. Professor Vandana Pednekar Magar is a principal senior lecturer at M. Mac Robinson College of Business, Georgia State University, and a former professor at Grand Valley State University with a background in journalism and global communication. Her work focuses on media policies, intercultural communication, and social issues in media. She has received a Fulbright Specialist Award and has worked on documentary filmmaking, enhancing a contribution to the field of communication studies. We are delighted to welcome Professor Vandana Pednekar Magar. Moving on, Ms. Malvik Melkot is the Director of the AI and Analytics Center of the Excellence at Owens Corning, where she has driven strategies and business intellectual initiatives with nearly 2 decades of experience in analytics and AI. She has played a key role in advancing digital transformation in the business operation. Her expertise spans AI, program management, and industry marketing, making her a thought leader in leveraging technology for business excellence. A heartfelt welcome to you, Ms. Malavika Melkot.
We request our panelists to please switch on their video mode.
Video mode.
Yes.
Over to you, dear panelists.
Thank you. I'll get to that. Thank you, everyone. Let's welcome our online panelists so people know who's who. We will start with Malvika. Can you raise your hand so people know Malu? Can you just,
Yes.
Okay, that's Malvika.
Good
Then
morning.
Vandana.
Good morning, everyone. It's
Vandana.
a pleasure to be here.
Malu, you can put your foot down. Can you raise your hand?
Hello.
Okay, you can hear us. Arpan. Okay. I know all of them, they're good friends of mine, so I can call them on a first name basis. But welcome, everyone. This is a panel on AI and contemporary media. And the way we'll do it is I'll give a brief few minutes of sort of a framework within which to set the discussion. Then we'll go online, start with Malvika, then Vandana, then Arpan, and each of the panelists will get about 7 to 10 minutes. Once they present, then we can open it up for questions. Okay. So in terms of AI, right, all of us have heard this term probably the most in the last day. And in our lives, we've been dealing with a lot. So just to set the context, right, AI in contemporary media, which is the theme of the conference, is let's see it both as an enabler and as a disruptor, right? So it enhances efficiency, personalization, and creativity, yet it also introduces ethical dilemmas, job displacement risks, and misinformation challenges. The key to a balanced AI media future lies in responsible AI development, regulatory oversight, and ethical use of technology. As AI continues to evolve, the media industry must navigate its complexities to harness its full potential while mitigating its risks. So one of the things I'm not doing is touching on a lot of the AI content that other panelists have talked about in the last, just in the interest of time. But these have revolved around, just for the benefit of those who are joining us only today, our discussions about AI have revolved around automated content generation, have revolved around personalized content recommendations, around enhanced journalism and fact checking. I think we could have talked more in terms of how AI tools assist journalists in investigative reporting by analyzing massive data sets, detecting trends, and identifying anomalies in real time. So a lot of government contracts, for instance, journalists can now sort of skim through them and condense them, use AI to see which contracts met the guidelines and which didn't, which was a problem before. And a lot of journalists in Philippines are doing some good work with that. AI-powered natural language processing tools like Google's Fact Check Explorer and Logically AI combat misinformation by verifying news sources and highlighting biased narratives. AI allows you to summarize legal documents and lengthy reports, allowing reporters to quickly extract key insights. And AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants. This we talked about slightly yesterday about engaging customers through personalized interactions, improving user experience, and brand loyalty. Brands using AI-powered analytics to predict consumer behavior, optimize ad placements, and automate media buying. And just to give you a sense of the market, in 2023, the market was valued at 12 billion, according to a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers. But by 2028, it's expected to reach $35 billion, right? So AI-powered misinformation, as an MIT study found, basically spreads it 6 times faster than factual news. So again, that's a challenge for us media professionals. Governments and tech companies are working on AI-driven authentication tools, such as blockchain-based verification to counteract deep content. But in terms of the creative industries, which is one of my fields that I'm currently working on, AI automates content creation, threatening jobs in journalism, filmmaking, and music. And the World Economic Forum estimates that AI could displace 85 million jobs by the end of this year. But the good thing is they may also create 97 million new roles. So it's a thing for us as higher education professionals to look at how to modify our curriculum. We talked about bias and ethical concerns yesterday. One of the things we could have focused more on, which we might end up doing, is privacy and data security issues, which again, the European Union has in 2023 raised about $1.2 billion in fines alone in terms of breaches in data security. So the sheer volume of content being produced also requires AI-powered moderation, which struggles with nuance and context and cultural variations, especially in the Indian context, leading to both over-moderation and under-moderation. And AI recommendation systems can therefore limit exposure to diverse viewpoints and create information silos, potentially increasing polarization and reducing shared media experiences. AI-powered analytics can track media consumption in increasingly invasive ways, as Dr. Melkote and I were talking about in the morning, raising questions about surveillance and user autonomy. And the collection of user data and analytics also raises several privacy and ethical concerns, as also algorithmic bias. In the Indian context, Indian companies like Z5, Hotstar, and Jio Cinema are leveraging AI for content recommendations and personalized user experiences. Reliance Jio is heavily investing in artificial intelligence with initiatives like Jio Brain, which is a machine learning platform, Jio Phone Call AI for real-time call transcriptions, and Jio AI cloud services aiming to enhance customers' experience and drive innovation in India. And I mean, in terms of regional languages, India has about 22 officially recognized languages in addition to English and Hindi. And AI is playing a crucial role in bridging those linguistic gaps, right? AI-driven translation tools like Google Translate and Microsoft Translator help make digital content accessible to non-English speakers. AI-powered voice recognition systems are being developed for regional languages, improving digital inclusivity. And content generation tools are enabling media houses to create region-specific news and entertainment content efficiently. And coming from the US, one of my biggest pleasant surprises was a lot of regional news channels here have AI anchors, which, I mean, like even in the US, I didn't see that. So that was something. So AI-driven advertising in India is projected to grow from $2 billion in 2023 to $5 billion in 2027, as per a KPMG India report. And so in terms of the issues that you need to address could be ethical AI development, regulatory frameworks, AI literacy and upskilling, and privacy protection. I'm just laying the context, and then we can talk about it during the question and answer session. But we'll go now to Malvika. And Malvika, you have about 7 to 10 minutes, and we'll take questions at the end of all the presentations.
Sure. Thank you, Sandeep. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in this forum because I don't get to interact with academics very often. I've only worked in the industry. So, and then I'm not a media expert either. So I will probably just touch on the impact of AI in the industry, specifically my experiences here in the US. So Sandeep, you really covered and laid the context for the evolution of AI and how fast it's growing and even being adopted in many cases, right? So in the field of technology, we call it an exponential technology, and it's absolutely changed the game. The traditional AI has been around for many years, right? So we did advanced analytics, machine learning, natural language processing to some extent, deep learning. All of this was there. And in companies, we used structured data to get insights and make better decisions and solve problems. What happened with the evolution of generative AI in 2022, fall of 2022, is this explosion of opportunities and capabilities. And what we've seen over the last 2 years, and particularly I would say in the last 6 months, the growth has been absolutely exponential. So it's an exponential technology. So I want to just break it down into, what are the impacts of this technology that we have experienced, and myself specifically in the work I do and my peers in the industry, where are we seeing the impact of this technology? Sandeep, you've talked a lot about media, and I think every industry, every vertical, healthcare, media, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, industrial, you name it, every industry has been impacted, and everybody is kind of on that path of figuring out how do we best leverage the technology, what capabilities can we use now, how do we build the technology roadmaps for the future, and how do we upskill our talent to really engage with this in a way that that's going to really amplify their capabilities, their performance, right? So I would break it down from an industry perspective. I think there's really, at a high level, 3 key areas. One is productivity, right? So productivity in so many different ways, in our ability to create new knowledge really quickly, to be able to work in a more human-centric way, but get the work done, doing things that we really want to do, and let AI take care of the mundane tasks, right? So a lot of personal productivity is the big gain that we see, and it's almost table stakes. My peers and we see a lot of us in the companies adopting these chatbots and the simple AI technologies that have been out with ChatGPT and other sources, and other large language models. The second area is really innovation, right? The speed to innovation is amazing. Take any use case in an industry, like say in R&D, you're trying to create a new product, a new material. The amount of research that goes into getting that product out is usually months and years, right? In drug industry, it takes years to produce a new drug, the testing that has to go on, the validations. But AI just gives us that ability to really speed up, taking a whole lot of data, a whole lot of information and knowledge, and putting it together and creating something new that we haven't thought about. So innovation is another big area. The third one is for companies, it's differentiation. So how can I differentiate the products and services I bring to my customers? It really gives you an edge to use AI in spaces that we've not thought about before, to differentiate our products and services. So if you think about like data as really the thing that gets you the intelligence, right? You need data. All of these years in companies, we've worked mostly with structured data, so data that's digital. We use that to get insights. But now there's a whole ton of unstructured data, which is, think about it as tribal knowledge in people's heads. It's procedures, it's processes, things that you do on a day-to-day basis. All of that is unstructured data. And that amounts to more than 50% of what a company's intellectual property or their inner workings could be. And we can really get after that with AI. So those are kind of some areas of value that I see in most of us in the companies are working to leverage. The real big challenge is around how do we keep pace with the technology that's coming out. Never have I seen in my 38 years of career in IT, never have I seen technology and products that are coming out that you can actually use on the day they come out, right? So AI is very much like that, and and as the technology is very much iterative and learning, you're training the models with your data, and the models are behaving better and better as they learn, as you really teach them unbiased ways of thinking, unbiased ways of replying to you, etc. So the technology is coming at us at 100 miles an hour, and how can we change the way we work? It's not so much about learning the technology itself, but it's really about learning how to engage with it, how to amplify our own knowledge, our own intelligence, and our own application of that knowledge in the way we have to work. So it's a really huge challenge in companies. So you can learn the tools, but it's really changing the paradigm of how you think about a business process. Sandeep, you mentioned agentic AI and agentic workflows. That's going to automate everything that lots of people spend lots of hours doing today at work. So the future of work is really very, very interesting. It's going to unfold at a pace that we're not ready for, I think. But the beauty of it is finally we can interact with machines in a human-centric way. And I think that opens up a lot of different things. Fundamentally, I think the skills that we would want our workforce to have is more critical thinking, problem solving, more reasoning, things like that, more emotional intelligence, as opposed to learning tools and programming languages and techniques, right? So that's where lies a huge, big opportunity to change the game in how we operate.
Thanks. We can go to Vandana next.
Well, thank you, Malu. That's Malvika. There is I call my friend Malu because I know her for a long time. So hello, everyone. Of course, this is almost midnight or past midnight in America. So excuse me if I'm a little groggy at this time, but here I am. Malvika, you mentioned about the whole idea of human-centric technology, how we use this technology in a human-centric way. I think that's sort of the key, isn't it? Here's something I was reading about this whole sort of what you call historically how we look at AI is, so in the Industrial Revolution, engineers who mastered new machinery saw their wages soar as routine laborers lost out, right? And the computer age rewarded software engineers and rendered typists obsolete. And so AI, it seems like it appears to follow that same path. As I think Sandeep mentioned, lots of folks are going to lose jobs, but then there are other opportunities. So it looks like AI is going to benefit those with the judgment and agility and expertise to navigate this complex, information-rich environments. So that's sort of the overall idea. But what I bring today is this idea that I know a little bit about media because I've been teaching in the media area for a long time. Not anymore. I now teach in the business school. I'm in the international business area, but media are huge international business, right? So AI is very much on, as of course with everybody, AI is very much on our minds. So it is, of course, a paradigm shift in production, distribution, and consumption. I don't have to reiterate that fact. So, but I also want to sort of bring this to our notice today that while this information ecology is evolving, unfolding, we really haven't comprehended the whole elephant as yet, right? We are still grasping at what this will do to us, to our imagination, to our society, to our nation, and the world at large. So I'll contribute a little bit of what my sense of the, based on some research and based on my understanding of what it's doing in our world. So what I can do today is, I think this whole panel is about what are the challenges and what are the opportunities, right? So one of the challenge, I'll talk about a couple of challenges, the impact with some examples, and then also what opportunities it provides in terms of the media industry and people working in the media world, right, in the media field. So one of the I think all us sort of communication folks who are also sociologists, and we bring anthropology, sociology, psychology, all of this in this field of media. It really is, what it's doing is, one of the challenges is blurring the lines between reality and fiction, right? How to distinguish between genuine media content versus manipulated media content. So there is misinformation and there are false narratives, as we all know, not just due to AI, but given that media are so fragmented today, there is an explosion of information or sources of information, that is to say, that we do not have the integrity that traditional legacy media offered us, right? And therefore, there are very few ways for at least the layperson, to check whether they are facts or simply opinions or even conspiracy theories. And as many researchers and journalists have pointed out, Nicholas Carr, one of the American journalists, his words come to mind as to AI-generated content on social media promotes lies and antipathy more effectively than truth and empathy. So that's one of the challenges, is how can we differentiate between what's genuine and what's manipulated, right? And so that, in terms of media, I think one of the key things about media is we need to have trust in what we read, right? So how to trust this media content? So this erosion of trust is another challenge. And I want to say what Hannah Arendt famously stated. She said, if everyone always lies to you, or at least you begin to believe that they do, the consequences is not that you believe the lies, but nobody believes anything anymore, right? So when people lose the ability to distinguish between truth and falsehood, it leads to widespread cynicism and distrust. So such a society is vulnerable to manipulation and control, and those who control the flow of information can dictate reality. So that's the sort of widespread concern about misinformation. And that also leads to political miscommunication, which is, so that's one of the challenges, the vulnerability to state control and manipulation and to propaganda. So, and as we know, many sort of state actors have use AI and social media and so on to, we kind of live in the age of propaganda today. So the impact, I think, is an information environment that is conducive for a more authoritative direction. Although there is this contradiction where we also say, AI and many of these kind of tools provide us a more democratic way of providing information and using information. But another challenge is this idea of ownership and copyright. The complexities in determining rights to AI-generated works. Everything AI gathers is from what's available on the entire internet world, as at least I basically know, right? So whose work is or the particular content supposed to be then? So there is a need to new legal frameworks, which they are not in place yet. And I think it'll take a long time for states to catch up. Although there have been attempts, as I think Sandeep mentioned, in the European Union, they are bringing in laws, which hopefully most of the world will have some kind of regulation on this kind of content. Then the other thing I'll touch upon is the bias in algorithms, which is it perpetuates some existing biases in the language that we use. So unfair representation, stereotyping, and discrimination, because AI apparently inherits existing bias in the language, and what is considered offensive can easily come back into regular parlance via AI. So that's another fear that I've heard, I've read researchers talk about. But having said that, given all of these, challenges, there's certainly opportunities, as I think Malvika mentioned quite a few of them in terms of generally in the industry, or the world of industry. And of course, media is a big industry, right? So one of the most sort of prolific international industry is media industry. So with that, one of the opportunities is automation of the routine tasks, right? So that there is increased productivity and innovation. Again, something that was touched on previously, and Malvika also mentioned it. So in media, there are examples of copy editing, transcription, translation, data analyses, even routines such as fact checking. So Der Spiegel, the German newspaper, they use a tool, I believe, that is, it supports journalistic integrity because it allows journalists to fact check and not have to go call the sources and so on. So they're using those kind of tools that are becoming more and more available. Also, it has revolutionized media creation, and like I said, it's a paradox. So it makes things vulnerable for control and manipulation, and yet or information control and manipulation, and yet it also democratizes, such as democratizes movie making, for instance. By simplifying editing, saving time for more creative, imaginative work. And it has lowered barriers to entry. Today, high school students can create an excellent video on their iPhones, as we all know. There are, so I was, as I was thinking about this much more kind of focused way, so apparently there is a software, there is a, not software, that's the word I generally tend to use, but so there is a startup company in New York City called Runway, and what they do is you create a text, you write a story, and based on that story, it'll generate images, right? So and I was looking at an example of that, and it's just fascinating. So so text to video generation is becoming part of this new this AI thing, and imagine what that can do to movie making, or even not like a full-fledged movie, but advertising and all this promotional activity and so on. So video games, podcasting. So there's so many different ways AI will revolutionize media creation. So that's basically I wanted to sort of talk about just there are challenges, and yet there are many opportunities, right? Again, AI is I'm not a computer scientist. All I can say from the user's point of view and from the media point of view, here are some of the things that I wanted to underline. But it is going to be a very rich environment for sure, with lots of problems that are created by in the sense, as they say, technology is a double-edged sword, right? It can be used in certain ways for the good of humanity, or it can be used to manipulate and control and so on. So here is where we are again with this new technology. One of my colleagues had said that just like Google, when Google came in, libraries became kind of redundant. Not that they have gone away. Just like the new media have not made the old legacy media redundant, they sort of adapted to the new environment, right? I think similarly, just as Google made libraries a little bit redundant, very few people actually go to the library today. You can simply do a quick Google search and get all kinds of articles that you want to read about. And I think AI will bring in something new in that sense, will change, has shifted the paradigm in the ways we do things. So I'll just stop here, and we will happy to listen to all what the others have to say about this.
Thanks. We can go on on to Arpan.
All right. Can you guys
Thanks,
hear me?
Vandana. We can go on to Arpan and then we'll
All
come
right.
back to you for questions.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. There are so many warm-bodied gurus that are sitting in this conference, and my pranams to each and every one of them. It's very interesting to talk about another guru that is emerging or has already emerged in the presence of so many other gurus and students, which is artificial intelligence. It has come out as something from which more than half of the world is learning. And this guru has immense opportunities and challenges. I want to focus on two aspects that are creativity and fear, because I have a special affinity to both of this. So to do that, I'll talk to you about certain thing and also contextualize it from the American aspect and then to the Indian context as well. January 26th is when India celebrates its Republic Day. On January 26, 2025, India, just like every year, celebrated its Republic Day. On January 27, something happened. And here, a creatively trained artificial intelligence model, V3 and R1, were launched. And this wiped out $1 trillion from the market capitalization of America's listed tech firms. The size of New York Stock Exchange is $32 trillion. And the tech aspect is a bit smaller than that. Just one creative input wiped off $1 trillion. If you look at it from the Indian context, India is currently around $3 trillion and wants to be $5 trillion, the Viksit Bharat, towards which a whole lot of people, civil society organizations, governmental organizations, private sector is working towards. And just in one day, we are in 2025, and in 2047, we are going to become from $3 to $5 trillion, and one creative input in the world of AI wiped off $1 trillion. This is what we are talking about today. Creative industries are going to be fueled by nothing other than artificial intelligence and human intelligence. So it's the amalgamation of creative intelligence and artificial intelligence. However, there is a little issue over here that when a baby is born, the heart needs to beat and the mind needs to keep working. Artificial intelligence, my question to all of us is that, do we have the ability to keep the heartbeat of this little baby going on? And I say so because it comes at a price. Every time you generate a fake news or a video or an image or an answer, it utilizes so much more energy than traditional internet and Google searches do. There are so many freshwater lakes that have lost 1/3 of their water content in the last 3 to 4 years. So I don't know if the earth has the ability to keep fueling and nourishing this baby that we have brought into existence. So there are, of course, many different aspects to AI and its impact in the world of media, the kind of fear it is generating in terms of job loss or the erosion of human agency in creativity, the risk of creative homogenization. just yesterday, I launched a course in my university. And in that course, I ask everyone to use artificial intelligence to create an alien. I have 70 students. And at the end of that activity, all the 70 students realize that AI is nothing but just another child who does not want to think much, because the aliens that they generate themselves, their artificial intelligence experience is also generating the same stereotypical homogenized alien. So then there is the fear of the manipulation and control, the autonomy of creative processes, AI replacing human connection. These are all real fears. And I assume that the Neanderthal man also had the same fears when he or she came across fire or wheel, or for that matter, in later times of pasteurization, propulsion engines, and so on and so forth. So creative industries are going to be the big deal as far as India are concerned. It is the only peripheral way that has the ability to drive the Indian core and ensure that it reaches its Viksit Bharat dream mark. So we in media and media education are in a very nice seat at the moment, because artificial intelligence, as has been mentioned, we are going to benefit from those 97 million jobs that Sandeep spoke about. A huge chunk of it will be for us. The utilization, the human agency, the human-centered aspect of it. Now, I have 15 more seconds left to my 7-minute mark. I want to bring in one aspect of intergenerationality over here, that at the moment, it is the older generation that is asking the difficult questions. The younger generations are heavily engaged in the creation of the technology and the utilization of this new technology, because it comes quite naturally to them. But it is the older generation who are sitting as legislators, who are asking the difficult questions that can this be kept going for a long time? What are the implications? And this I find very interesting, because as far as environment is concerned, the younger generation has been vehemently questioning the older generations about the misuse that has happened. But here, it's the vice versa. So I have just touched upon a few points. We can talk more about the fear that AI brings in due to its existence, due to the bias, the skewness in it, due to its imperfection, as well as the opportunities of an emerging guru, a teacher. What is AI teaching many of us? How is it going to be just another technology? I would, in my ideal world, artificial intelligence can be that good, righteous friend that guides you in the path of righteousness, your duty, and not sway you away from it. I wait for such kind of artificial intelligence, but that might be me being very hopeful. And the last point that I want to say is that we created artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence on any given day is going to be superior than an individual intelligence, because it has so much data, it has so much breadth, it has so much depth. But then at the same time, artificial intelligence and what it can do, what it can bring out, can never ever be larger or greater. It will still remain a subset of the broader human intelligence. Things to think about. Thank you all so very much, and I look forward to interaction and question and answers. Sandeep, back to you.
Thanks. Thanks, Arpan. We'll now get to the other two presentations, Usha and we can start with Usha and then, but we can go back on the platform if that's needed. Ujjwal.
Is this working? Okay, great. So thanks to all the earlier presenters. In some ways, I think we're all going to be saying the same things in slightly different ways. But I'd like to focus on two words. The first is inevitability, and the second is relevance. And I think, and I want to dispense with the first word, which is inevitability. And I think there's a certain sense in which we have accepted the outcomes of AI-driven lives as inevitable. And without actually imagining what the consequences of that inevitability might be. Now, of course, in the three previous presentations, there was, I think, there was both hope and caution. And I would say more hope than caution, which is unlike much of the discourse that exists in media and communication circles. But I would just say that let's not yield to inevitability. And I think as communication and media scholars, we are actually positioned uniquely between the social sciences and the technological space to effectively and productively contribute to this discourse, both in terms of conceptual, thinking through the conceptual landscape, as well as contributing to regulation and governance, and also reimagining the sort of skills that are needed for young people to deal with this new world. And in some ways, maybe that's a little bit of a redundancy, this last bit, because you find that young people, just as Arpan said, are already dealing with this new world. But they are so immersed in it that they often do not see what it's doing to themselves as human beings. So, let's forget this word inevitability. I just wanted to flag it as something that seems to be permeating much of the discourse. Instead, I'd like to focus on relevance. And I think as teachers, what many of us have been grappling with ever since ChatGPT launched in November 2022 has been, what does it mean to be a communication teacher, a media teacher in the age of generative AI? I teach a writing course, and it's becoming increasingly clear that the syllabus that I devised 20 years ago no longer is relevant. However much I might believe as a creative professional or as somebody who loves language, that nothing can replace the human process of creating media text or media output. It's very clear that young people today live in a different world, and it's hard to argue with someone who says, but the AI is doing it so much better, and once I get into the workplace, it's the product that counts. So if I'm going to be able to create a product that is so much more sophisticated and on point than something I could do myself in the same amount of time, why should I not use it? That's a difficult argument really to counter, except that I have to keep going back to my, maybe idealistic tone of, the process matters, and you have to know what you're doing. And if you use the AI, you don't know what you're doing, and so on. And I don't know that that makes much sense. But so over the past 2 years, at least, I have been really actively grappling with this question of relevance. Which portions of our syllabi in media and communications really continue to make sense? What will continue to be relevant at the time young people graduate 2 years, 4 years from now? What elements of our syllabi can continue to keep them relevant as young professionals? So in terms of teaching media skills, I think there is a challenge, and I think we are grappling with it in multiple ways. I think yesterday, Sandeep also pointed to some of those ways. But I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about media research. And I think actually there are some questions that both for empirical and conceptual scholars that we really can pick up and talk about and investigate with much more at much more depth. So I'll just mention 2 or 3 of these areas that I think I don't see very much research yet. These are areas that are ripe for communication and media scholars. So the first is about the mediatization of our social worlds. And some of you may recall this old text, Berger and Luckman's text, The Social Construction of Reality. And on the 50th anniversary of this text, Nick Coldry and Andreas Hepp brought out another book called The Mediated Construction of Reality. And so what I think is that, of course, the problems that or the conundrums that come about when our realities are mediated is one thing, but when sociality is mediated, as with artificial intelligence, then what does that mean? So when you introduce artificial intelligence into this equation, how do we think about mediated communication? If an AI is constructing the interactions, as with chatbots, what happens to this nature of what we think of as sociality? So symbolic communication, whether using words or images, has always been conceived as an essentially human activity. And generative AI offers symbols that are created without cognition, or cognition as we have thought about it, without the processes of ethical or critical filtering. So how do we then analyze such communications? What assumptions of motivation and intentionality would we ascribe to AI agents as they mediate sociality? So I think these are some interesting questions. Another set of questions that we might grapple with is, what is the nature of the creative product generated by an AI agent? How does one analyze it as a cultural artifact? Do we need new frameworks that privilege the reading and the reader rather than the writing and the writer, as earlier frameworks have done? Indeed, how might we think about human creativity as opposed to synthetic production generated not through experience and perspective, but through aggregation and curation? The third set of questions, even as political ideologies shape our notions of truth and falsehoods, fake news and misinformation, and there's been a lot of talk about that. AI tools and algorithms shape not only the content itself, but the combinations that are presented to us. Can we then apply existing theories to understand the processes of world making and public opinion formation on the basis of AI curated content? So just in the last week, there's been a lot of discussion about Grok AI and the fact that it spontaneously enters into the discourse on Twitter. So then what is that discourse, right? If it is not created by the participation of human agents. And then another set of questions, as we've seen in other technological shifts, there are always, and I quote Neil Postman here, winners and losers. So clearly there will be new divides that emerge in an AI landscape, both in terms of access and use and in the scale and level of access and use. So I've been engaged in a project that looks at AI rights for children. And this is part of a larger initiative to think about digital futures for children. And as I talk to young people, I realize that depending on the kind of school you go to, depending on the kind of discourse that exists in the classroom, children's use and experience of AI is for us as communication scholars to continue to find relevance through. And the point of all of this is to contribute productively to governance and policy. And we can't really contribute to governance and policy unless we understand what is going on in the area of use. So I think, we need to go beyond being caught up in the panic of the moment and try and clinically see what it is we can do to retain relevance, and not in a defensive mode, but really to use this opportunity as something that is creatively challenging, intellectually challenging. So I'd just like to stop with talking about the fact that we do need to go back to our insistence on ethics in our classrooms and what it might be to navigate in an ethical way the AI mediated landscape. And again, talking to children, I find that apparently one 13-year-old told me that oh, we all use ChatGPT for our assignments. And initially the teacher did tell us that it was not right, but now she's given up because she knows everybody does it. And we know that she does it too, to generate test questions. So then what's wrong with it, right? So then how do we deal with this? So I think in order to remain relevant in the age of AI, we give up the inevitability that AI will outpace human endeavor in all fields. But we also kind of foreground our essential humanity. And if anything is a human characteristic, it is the imagination. And that's the core of this conference. So not to give up on our ability to imagine. Thanks.
Thanks, Usha. We can now go with Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary.
So, AI, a lot has been talked. I just want to say that AI is not that we are recognizing it from the time ChatGPT was launched in 2022 November. When a human being calculates, adds, subtracts, divides, multiplies, it's human intelligence. And when the calculator does it, isn't it AI? When I ask people on the road that I want to go to Lakshmi Vilas Palace, told me the way, and several people, one after another, tells me, because I don't have a mobile. Now I have a mobile, and I ask the mobile to show me the way, and I just follow it. Isn't it AI? Has it not been there for many, many years? And similarly, we can go at different walks of life. When I go to a library and see 5 books, 10 books, after searching a few hundred, and identify the portions that I need to read for writing something, that's human intelligence. When I curate from multiple books, when I ask the Google to do that for me, isn't it AI? So AI has been there in some form or the other for last 30 years, or I mean, since calculator, since Google, since all that. The point is the debate has become strong after open generative AI has come up. Now that the debate has come up in a big way. Is it really right or wrong? Relevant or irrelevant? Is it inevitable? We have already accepted Google as inevitable. We have already accepted the mobile Google Maps as inevitable. We have already accepted the calculator as inevitable. The question is, today we are moving to an era where human intelligence plus artificial intelligence is larger than human intelligence minus artificial intelligence. So you need to have, but with a strong dash of human intelligence. I'll give an example. Around 5 weeks ago, I was invited by Sabargamua University of Central Sri Lanka to be a keynote speaker in a program called ICMR. And the topic given, they gave the topic, AI and marketing communication. That was the topic. That's all. And I was to prepare it within a week because I do not know why the invitation was late, within a week or 10 days maybe. So I divided now human intelligence, artificial intelligence, human intelligence, 3 levels. First, human intelligence. To some extent, I'm aware of marketing communication, brand communication being in the field of communication for the last 20 years. So 20, 25 years, whatever. So I divided this topic, marketing, communication, and AI, into 7 or 8 questions. One focused on advertising, one focused on public relations, one focused on experiential marketing, one focused on corporate communication, one focused on brand management, one focused on marketing technology, MarTech. And the same question, I'm not getting into details of the questions, I asked several AI tools the same question, one after another. ChatGPT 4.0 plus the paid version I have. Gemini, Google Gemini Advanced, the paid version. My Copilot, the free version. DeepSeek, the free version. Perplexity, the free version, and one more I forgot. Just now I'm not remembering. Grok was not there at that time. So 6 different AI tools ask the same 8 questions one after another and compile the 8 answers of each of these questions in one document. And I kept reading the answers. Suppose the first one is connected to advertising. All the 8 answers, I found several, maybe 80% similar points, but 20% different points, and 1 or 2 even contradictory points. And on those contradictory points, I do Google search again. To make it short, after 1.5 days of working on all these answers and their conflictual ones as well, researching on them again on Google, finally I could write my own write-up, which took heavily from all these answers, but was not exactly the same as any of them. I made my own write-up, then asked AI again to develop that 4,000 words article into 40 plus slides. They did it. Canva with AI designed it for me, designed the presentation for me. And I find absolutely nothing wrong in it. Absolutely nothing wrong in it, because the contradictions were corrected, the doubts were researched, the commonalities were taken in, and in most cases, some verifications were done. So human intelligence did the prompting, AI did the content curation, human intelligence re-edited it and combined it into a single document. And I find nothing wrong. I had a superb time in that program, and that has gone also. Okay, I also asked this AI to tell me the sources from where they got these answers, this content. So I had a large number of sources as well, of which I selected a few and mentioned not all. So coming back to the discussion, so this is another tool like many other tools that we had. I remember the Agfa camera, 16 steals we could take. And we are very careful to click even once, because one means one slot is gone. And today with the camera, we don't mind clicking 7,000 times, because 7,000 pictures can come in my phone. So we have taken advantage of it. And now we have a choice to delete 6,992 and use the last 8, the best 8 that I didn't have when it was the Agfa era in my childhood. So what's wrong? So while our age group people have reconciled to calculator, to Google Map, to all these things which were there for some time, Google itself, my daughter's generation is now getting accustomed and adapting fast to AI. The caution that we have to give are the ethical questions which have already been mentioned. So coming a few minutes more, recently we have seen how Italian paper Il Foglio had already created a 4-page newspaper where the selection of the stories, the titles, the narration, the editing, everything was done by AI. I'm not getting into value judgment. The fact that it was done by AI, except the prompting done by the journalists. Even the design was done by AI. So, and they have given it along with 8 pages humanly created, journalistically created, a regular newspaper. They added these 4 pages. And they had a great feedback from the marketplace. So AI in contemporary media can be looked at from some areas. One big area is content creation and automation. We have talked about it. It could be AI generated content, AI specifically in journalism, content development and journalism. The duality and the difference has been explained very well yesterday. So AI generated content creation and automation has a promise, has many examples. I've got many examples here. Due to time short, I will not go into the examples. How, for example, Yawn is using AI for curating content, news content. There are, for an example, Washington Post Heliograph is using AI for developing its content. And there are challenges as well. The second area of AI in contemporary media is audience engagement and personalization. For the first time, when you open a portal, you see a homepage. The homepage is same for everyone at a point of time. Now, AI has made it possible that your homepage at this point of time is different from what your friend is seeing. The AI has captured that your interest is in political news. The homepage has political news. The friend's homepage, same portal, same moment. The other person's homepage may be only sports news because his interest is there. He has taught the machine, taught the portal that I'm interested in sports news. A third person can have only business news. So I find nothing wrong in that because it depends on each, and we have limited time, 24 hours of the day. How much can you consume? Okay, audience engagement and personalization, personalized media consumption, AI and advertising. In all these, we are finding a lot of use of AI for using engagement. And engagement economy or engagement and attention leading to engagement is the currency of the modern digital economy, modern digital media. So without engagement and without attention, however good we might make, unfortunately, does not have the desired impact. The third area of AI in media is accessibility and inclusion. How it enhances accessibility, how it might not really include all. So there might be biases against gender. There might be biases against certain community, smaller communities, which the AI cannot capture because of its Western bias. Because the machine learning has been on Western, training has been on Western model. Yes, ethical and legal consideration, the algorithmic bias has been talked about earlier, representation there, deep fake, misinformation, copyright, intellectual property usage, issues, all have been mentioned there very rightly. So I do not want to be an unabashed apologist of AI. There are concerns. There are concerns, but it is surely a step in the progress. The concerns have to be taken into consideration. Data privacy, surveillance, that's another concern. So therefore, regulation and future trends have to be defined. When I have to tell my learner, I refuse to use the word student and teacher anymore, learner and mentor. So when I tell my learner to use AI, I will only ask them to do it responsibly. Get feedback from, okay, I used the 6th AI tool that I used was Jasper. Now I remember Jasper. If it is now, this moment, I will also use Grok. I might also use Norton. And this gives me a huge variety of content. So I will end on this. There's no harm to generate content through AI, provided we know how to understand the conflictual, the controversial, and the biases therein. So the training has to be on understanding the biases and the conflicts and resolution of that through human intelligence and knowledge, and not an anti-AI narrative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ujjwal. We'll now go to the online panelists and give them time to ask their questions. But I have a note from the organizers to stay on after the session because I want to do a group photo of the panelists. So just letting you know, I know it's late for you, but hang in there. So does anyone have any questions? Vandana, Malvika, Arpan?
I want to know, how is the audience doing? Are they enjoying, getting bored? What's up?
Vandana.
One of the questions it keeps coming to mind is this idea of, okay, we talk about AI gives us, it gives us ways to create content and do things. But I just wonder about this idea of the public sphere. Is there a public sphere anymore where people understand, okay, this is the news, this is what we should know, this is what we should know about public affairs. This is purely in terms of media now, of course, not how we use AI in so many other fields and so on. But in terms of, there are more content creators than media companies, it looks like, right? So what happens with the news as we know it, what the legacy media has given us all these years as to understanding our society, our nation, through the means of news content. What happens to that with when people can create their own content, or people can create their own, home pages for that matter, and so where is the place for the role of media? Has the role of media? That's sort of the larger question in my mind. Not necessarily, I don't know if we have the answer to that at this point. That's why I feel that we are still evolving in terms of what these media will do, what AI will do to media, as it gives more opportunity for people to create content, their own content. So just throwing this out as a thought as to what happens with what's the original role of media as we taught in our classes and what it is today.
Okay. The question is, what happens to the legacy news outlets if everyone becomes a content creator? First of all, everyone becoming a content creator and a newsman, there are two different propositions. All content creation is not news, or most content creation is not news. Having said that, just think of India today. The bulk of Indian media is either strangulated or bought over. That's the reality. Nobody wants to tell the elephant in the room. I understand that, but that's the reality. If that's the reality, if there was no Ravish Kumar, if there was no Ajit Anjum, if there was no Dhruv Rathi, the alternative view would not have come. So it's good that there are YouTubers who are giving the alternative view. What's wrong? I mean, if you remember, during the pandemic, the first person to talk about the inhuman, independent India's worst human indignity was the return of the migrants, the way they were forced to come back. They were forced to come back like cattle. Even sheep is treated better. Now, this story did not come in a legacy medium. Show me one legacy medium which reported first the migrant crisis. Later on, some people started, after the alternate medium started talking about. Who are the people who talked about the migrant crisis first? Mozo channel of Barkha, Ravish Kumar, Ajit Anjum, Abhishar Sharma. They were the guys who talked about the migrant crisis first. Please go back to the March 24 to May 31, these dates of 2020. Then NDTV to an extent reported, Times of India hardly, but okay. Indian Express made a big story, cover story. Many others came after that. Hindu came, many others came. Telegraph came, many others came. I read usually the English papers, but I'm sure it happened in the Indian language newspapers also. Channels, hardly. Where were those pitiable stories on the television channels? So in the current state, when legacy medium is already setting agenda, working as a gatekeeper, and the gates are sold to some powers that be, it is good that there is an alternative media from the grassroots. It is good that the YouTubers are telling the stories that we need to know. It's good that there is a YouTuber in Northeast, a guy called Deka, who talks about stories that you will never read in any newspaper. You will never see in any television channel. Stories from Nagaland, stories from Manipur. You will only see the official version of Manipur. The real story of Manipur are with the YouTubers. It is not in the newspapers. It's not in the channels. So it's fine. I'm okay with the alternate media coming up. However, it is true that we have to train our youngsters, our learners, that even if you are an independent content maker or independent news maker on the social media, there is ethics there as well. There are certain norms that we have to follow there as well. That's a bigger task that we need to know.
Thanks, Ujjwal. Vishnadeep.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond more directly to the point about the public sphere, right? And how do we construct a discursive space that is somehow where we are all reading the same thing or similar things. And the curatorial aspect of an AI generated interface is I mean, certainly is a problem. But it's not a new problem. It has already started. There have been echo chambers created ever since personalized web pages have existed. So I think the answer to that, or at least a partial answer, is to again lies in education, right? In encouraging people to understand what is being presented to them and to go beyond an automatic or an artificially generated AI generated curation of the news. And I can imagine that this is going to become more and more challenging in an algorithmically defined media interface. But I think there are ways in which we can equip young people and equip people in general to go beyond what is presented to them.
Thanks. We will, in the interest of time, let's just go to see if Malvika or Arpan.
Yeah, the one thought I have is, we talk about AI actually democratizing information, knowledge, just like Google did that, right? AI is now getting even deeper insights and access to more information, ability to pull together information and give you insights, all of that stuff. Is this going to create a bigger divide in who has it and who doesn't, right? It's not an egalitarian. Technology has never been egalitarian. And so what does this do? I guess I'm interested in all of your perspective on this question. Is it going to pull people apart, create a bigger divide among the people who have it and people who don't have it, the use of this technology and the ability to make something out of it for their lives and for their communities? Or is it going to close the divide a little bit? And the one example I always think of, and I'm absolutely fascinated when I'm in India, is the adoption of digital technology, right? The digital financial platforms and how easy it is to use a phone pay, and everybody, whether you're formally educated or not, you're able to use those technologies and function. So I'm fascinated with the level of adoption in India as opposed to in the US and with those digital technologies on a day-to-day basis. But I'm wondering about what impact will AI have in terms of either closing the gap of between people who have agency and who don't, or not.
Yes. Hello. Yes, my name is Dr. Archan Mitra, and I have been in the media education for the past 12 years. So my question is for the researchers, because I'm into media research. One term has come up recently, and that is called AI plagiarism. So plagiarism as a term which has been defined that if we copy someone's work, some person who exists physically, then we are bound for legal implications. But what if we are copying from AI and this AI plag is there when we are teaching AI to mimic a human being? So do we consider AI as a citizen, as a human being, and consider AI plag to be wrong? Or are we copying from AI and saying that, yes, you have done a mistake because AI plag shows 50% in your paper, it should be below a certain amount of limit? So, and to what extent? Because I was playing with this particular software that Turnitin launched called the AI detector in just after ChatGPT came into existence. I checked my thesis, which I written in 2015, and it came 30% AI. How is that possible?
Okay, thank you. We can take Mala's question first and then. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Malu, for that question. I mean, clearly there will be divides and there will be democratization. I think that the two things happen at the same time. There are some kinds of divides which will be some gaps which will be closed or narrowed through the use of AI. Definitely things like linguistic ability, access to certain kinds of information, certain kinds of syntheses will be available and accessible to more people who know how to use them well. But at the same time, this know how to use them well will be the differentiator between that could either exacerbate the divide or close it. But the other point about microtransactions and UPI and so on, I mean, that's been the great success story of Digital India, right? The fact that so many people have now access to financial independence through these interfaces. But there is another story there as well. So the gaps that existed before in terms of gender, in terms of class and caste, well, more caste than class, continue to play out even with UPI transactions, because a lot of the women who may be selling vegetables in the market, the transactions are actually linked to her husband's bank account. So I think those divides still exist, and of course they are narrowing, but in a country like India, no technology can completely, suture over the existing gaps. And just to respond to the plagiarism question, I think we need to rethink what we mean by plagiarism. Obviously, plagiarism as defined literally is copying from someone else's work without attribution. Now, with AI, when you're using an AI agent, I don't think that is so much plagiarism as outright cheating. If you are, I mean, it depends on how you use the AI, right? So a lot of my students will say, no, the ideas were mine. I just fed the raw content into the system and it gave me a clean output. Now, there is something lost there, which is what we have as mediators have to point to. So I think we need to redefine what we mean by academic integrity, how we understand plagiarism or academic cheating, and so on.
The divide thing, I just want, just before you take up on the divide thing, the divide is not unique to digital or AI. The divide is a perennial part of the society. She talked about caste and community divide. The poverty is a regular thing. Gender is a big divide. So what problems we find with respect to divide when technology comes in is a continuation of the problems that were there already in the society in the form of poverty, ill health, caste exploitation, gender exploitation, and all that. Maybe the technology might actually reduce it. Direct transfer of benefits, DTB, has actually made people open their accounts, women open their accounts. Jan Dhan account has made them open their accounts. So today, a bhajiwala lady who is selling vegetables can connect it to their own. Yes, there is still a group where the husband's account will be connected, but people have started doing their own names also. So the issue is that technology is actually supporting the decrease of the divide, provided the technology is accessible to them. And pandemic has made smartphone accessible or digital technology accessible to a large number of people who did not have it till 2020 March. So it's a step in progress. Now, whether the progress is good enough, whether we need to do much more is another open question.
Am I audible? More or less. Okay. I think Malvika has stirred a hornet's nest, it seems, because we all have various opinions on this, and the perspective. My name is Shashidhar Nanjundaya. I bring is slightly different. It goes back to what you had invoked in passing, which is the concept of critical thinking, or the outcome or the ambition of critical thinking. And my question at that time was, how can AI and critical thinking go together? how can the development of AI also lead to more critical thinking? The Carnegie Mellon study of basically just this year shows that they had an analysis as well as a survey of professionals. So Carnegie Mellon, along with Microsoft, which basically means that it was a Microsoft study, found that there is definitely a decreased critical thinking among employees. You forget scholars, you forget students, just among employees, because of something that is now called mechanized convergence. With mechanized convergence, there's a correlation they're drawing between greater trust in AI and lower cognitive effort. Not cognition itself, but cognitive effort among human beings. And that, I wonder if that's an evolutionary process, as we were talking in the morning, or is it more of a morality question? Now, so it sets up the premise of what I was going to say, which is that if you talk about whether AI has an equalizing power in a society, in a bizarre way, it does. I mean, notwithstanding everything that Dr. Ujjwal Chaudhary and the others have said, right, to the credit of what AI brings in. But AI is exactly what governments like the Indian government and now the American government want. The reason is it is going to equalize people. It is going to make people think alike. It is going to make people depend on AI more and more, so that their thinking becomes more and more homogeneous, not heterogeneous. And that, I think, is one argument to be placed before this table, because yours was a very profound question in terms of how AI could be actually either exacerbating or promoting a more equitable society. Because this plays into the hands of authoritarianism. Because if critical thinking declines, what happens?
Turning off your mic.
I'm done, Sandeep.
Good.
Thanks.
See, just to throw a wrench in the works of plagiarism, one of the alternate thinkings about plagiarism comes from using examples from music composition, right? People who are trained in music composition have only a certain set of elements to work with. And, or even the language that we are taught, the kind of sentence construction that we are taught. And like, I'm a filmmaker, and when you write scripts, I mean, someone said that it all goes back to 7 different plot elements, right? 7 different kinds of conflicts that you can have. It's just about how are you mixing and matching those and creating those storylines. What AI does is it gets trained on existing databases, but then it mixes and matches and sort of based on the patterns kind of thing, it's sort of putting out new information. So would you call it plagiarism? Would you call it cheating? If you call it that, then when we are reading literature and we are coming up with ideas, subconsciously we are influenced by those ideas, right? And we are putting it out. Yeah, but a lot of people who argue for AIs use those examples and say, if what you're doing on your own is not plagiarism, how can that be plagiarism? Because it's not regurgitating the exact same thing. It's taking information in databases, mixing and matching and creating a new kind of thing, right? So I just wanted to put it out there. But in terms of digital divide, I agree with the contention that, yeah, I mean, like, it's not true digital inclusion. It's not a perfect kind of situation, but we are definitely much more down the road than we were before AI, because technology is value neutral. Technology works in techno-social systems that are influenced by socio-cultural, political, other kinds of factors. So there are a lot more factors that determine this than just blaming it on technology.
I just wanted to mention, Sandeep, can you hear me? Just wanted to mention a wonderful book, Talk About Digital Divide. It's by Payal Arora. It's called The Next Billion Users. Some of my communication colleagues might have seen that. And Arora talks about the first digital divide, which was purely about technology, who has the technology and who doesn't. And then the second digital divide is about who has access. And I think Usha has mentioned that there's a gender difference. Payal actually looks at the entire sort of the developing world, as opposed to just India. Or so she has gathered empirical evidence from so many different communities, Saudi Arabia, and so yes, we have mentioned this, that that society, what happens in society actually in physical society gets sort of transferred onto the virtual world, and how people use technology, who has access, how much they have, what kind of influence they have. And there is also this idea of, those who don't have much of language sort of facility, then these are the folks who have gone to the video world. In the sense, YouTube has become very popular among communities who don't, cannot sort of say much in terms of, language. So linguistic divides, in that sense, literacy divides, gender divides, all of these influence how technology is used and to what extent it can be helpful in their own communities. So it's a very, just to throw out that name, and this is not my original idea, but from Payal Arora makes a wonderful argument based on very empirical kind of study about that. It's called The Next Billion Users, which are basically all of these technology companies are wanting to go into the developing world, the poorer countries who have started using technology. We're not essentially talking about AI, of course, we're talking about social media as well. So just wanted to throw that out.
Learn on FemLab and other digital labor kinds of initiatives, right? So if you have anything to add, that's fine. If not.
I think, no? Okay. Yeah, no, that book offers a very different perspective on, particularly on the use of technologies in what we variously call the global south, the majority world, etc. And I think Payal's latest book, which is called From Pessimism to Promise, deals more explicitly with AI. And a lot of the work that they are doing has to do with working on the building blocks of AI. So how do you de-bias data sets? How do you ensure that, because AI is now used a lot, and any of you who are applying for jobs, you know that the first level of elimination happens through an AI agent. So how do you, and that AI agent is working on the basis of HR knowledge, that is largely of a certain kind, right? Yeah, templated. So how do you then de-bias the knowledge that the AI agent is going to work on? So recently there was a paper that looked at CVs. Actually, Payal and Kiran Bhatia and others worked on that, where they're looking at how CVs actually are rated by AI agents and how we can intervene in that process. So I think we really need to do, as media and communication scholars, get more into process of technology building. And this does veer into areas like HCI and science and technology studies. But I think now media studies needs to open its boundaries to include all of this.
Just to add to that, Amazon actually tried using AI for their hiring things. After 1 year, they gave it up because the data set that they trained their AI was all biased, and the AI system was actually repeating the same biases. So technology by itself is value neutral. So what is it that you're training it that? So let's go to questions from the audience and anything. Okay, we are running close, so let's make it quick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rajeshwari. I'm a research scholar from Mother Teresa University. My question is little general to everyone. So how we can use AI ethically in research, because we are being surrounded by so many AI technology, and how it can be used ethically.
No, I wanted to know if any of the others had a response. So the question, if you could hear it, was how do we, as researchers, use AI ethically in research?
I would only say that use it within the boundaries of what your institute allows. There are some institutions that have a bit more of a restricted approach to it. Some have a more open approach to it. So whatever you do, just do it in consultation and agreement of your institution. Once you are an independent researcher, the sea is open. But as long as you are working within the confines of an institution, work with them rather than hiding from them and doing things. It's a bit shameful to get caught like that. So not worth it. Just know that, talk to some, help them create policies and work it out.
Yeah, so actually, this is a really important question because I think most institutions are still fumbling in terms of what their policies on AI use and academic integrity are. I know that in our own department, for instance, we've been grappling with this question. At a macro level, like some of the larger professional associations like ICA and IMCR, possibly AMIC, have asked for an AI statement. So again, it's all about you having the moral compass to declare use of AI. So how have some people actually ask for screenshots? So if you have used AI as a writing code, so that seems to be somewhat acceptable. And I'm only saying somewhat because I don't think people have actually worked out what it means. So if you're using AI, so a lot of people in the sciences, for instance, are now actively using AI to generate systematic reviews. So perhaps at the level of the literature review, there is some way to argue for an ethical use of AI. But again, I think this is really murky territory, and we all collectively need to work out, what kind of ethical boundaries do we want to create? How do we, and how realistic are they in our context? So
Yeah.
we don't
one
have
thing,
any AI use policies at the University of Hyderabad. Possibly, some of the other universities do.
one thing to keep in mind is that until
We
and
do
unless
at the University of Hartford, we do have an AI policy. We have 4 or 5 different models that faculty can pick and choose from. I allow my students to use any form of AI they want, but my assignments are framed that way. They cannot put them in AI and generate a response. It requires a lot of ingenuity in terms of changing the kind of assignments that you give them, but also a lot of universities are now creating courses in what are called prompt engineering, right? It's not about stopping the use of AI. It's about teaching students how to use AI responsibly. And then you cite those information. Like if any of you have used Grammarly, for instance, right? Grammarly is a good use of AI, right? So things like that. And I don't know if anyone, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that until and unless there is at the institutional level or other level, there is a policy or a law in place, you will continue to get evaluated by the law that or the policy that is present. So, and that will not include, so you will be treated like you have plagiarized. So, until unless there is a new policy, you will get treated and judged based on the policy that exists. And this can create issues. So just be careful and wary about of those things.
All the plagiarism detection software has been shown to be biased against international students. So like international students, when they write in a language that's not their native language, the plagiarism software based on the sentence construction tags it as plagiarism. So all that is knowledge that faculty need to have. Just because the machine says 30% plagiarism doesn't mean it's 30% plagiarism. It requires you to go in and have a second look at what was the section that. But I think we are short of time and I've been asked to wrap up. Thank you, everyone. And stay on, the online panelists, please stay on for a group photograph and we can continue the conversations offline. Yeah.
Heartfelt thanks to our panelists for joining us online despite the time difference. As we come to the conclusion of this insightful panel discussion on AI in contemporary media, I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists for sharing their valuable perspective and expertise. And now we are heading towards our refreshment. So right now the time is 11:22. We'll be back within 15 minutes. So please be on time as we are going to have the next panel session as the panelists have come here. And there's a general information that we haven't received the slides of some people, that is Madhuvanti S, Dr. Devika, Dr. Natarajan, Manasa H, Samriddhi, Nagaratnama, Rudrappa, Somshekhar, and Shweta, and Sanjay R. So if it would be helpful for us if you could share your PPTs with us. If not, you can do your presentation without your PPTs. Thank you.
Vandana ma'am, you can sign off. Thank you for being with us.